Previously on Football, Tactics and Glory.
They're a living, breathing, statistical impossibility. I've never seen a team this bad.
Yes, we inherited a squad that would make your usual starting squad in a Road to Glory type game look like world beaters by comparison. We did manage to beat Northampton at the end, though even that was by the skin of our teeth. But now our players are actually learning how to play football, so things can only get better from here. Not against this team, however. Burton Albion are 1.5 stars better and 2 levels higher on the pyramid than we are, so it's going to be another big loss. I am going to use these games to explain a few game mechanics I didn't cover in the first episode, so let's get to it. First, let's cover pressing in more detail. Instead of attempting a tackle, you can apply pressure on the ball carrier, reducing all of their attributes by 15 points each. This is useful when you have a second player in position to make the tackle, as you can outroll stronger players more often. Also, if the ball carrier is still in possession of the ball on their turn, they cannot move. They must either pass or shoot out of the pressure. Normally pressing costs an action point, but if you have a central or wide midfielder, they can press for 3. Those positions I mentioned are examples of Tier 2 preferred positions. The positions that our players learned last episode are only Tier 1. With more experience, they can upgrade to more powerful versions. I will talk more about these Tier 2 preferred positions when they become more relevant to our team, but for now let's talk about holding. The ball carrier can spend an action point to secure the ball, giving themselves a plus 20 to control. The idea being to try and hold the ball throughout the opponent's turn so that you start the next turn with the ball already at your feet. Didn't quite work out this time, but it did take Burton their entire turn to win the ball back. And in fact, we're doing really well in this match. Still scoreless, thanks in part to a couple of lucky blocks on shots Burton took earlier in the match. But now you see the RNGs come back to collect on its loan. We get a few bad rolls in a row, and that's all it takes for Burton to take the lead and never look back. They managed to score a second not long after that, although Challenger does manage to peg one out back right at the end of this match, taking advantage of a somewhat thin Burton defensive line to thread one past. But unfortunately it is a loss nonetheless, and it also means less EXP compared to the Northampton tie. You only get half of the maximum EXP on a draw and only a third on a loss. It is still plenty compared to the usual amateur league yield, however. Pope Joy becomes our next official defender, and I'm going to give him the long pass skill so that we have someone who can start the counter-attack from the back. The cup is also good for us financially. We get $15 per ticket sold at each home game as opposed to the $5 we were getting for amateur league games. So that's another incentive for us to do well in the cup, even if we are still several seasons away from being able to compete for it. I guess this is a good time to explain how attendance works. The number of fans you have is the attendance you get at each home game. There's no complicated formulas, there's no random elements, what you see is what you get. That number can never drop below 15, which is just as well because we've done enough losing to lose all of our fans otherwise. I should also point out that the National Cup proper in this game is only contested by teams in Tiers 1 and 2. This is the Prestige Cup for teams in Tiers 3 and 5. Not that being shielded from the top flight teams helps us that much when Burton Albion is still more trouble than we can handle. They once again managed to take the lead, and whilst we managed to score again, we can't stop them from scoring, and we lose this game 3-1, so the fixture is lost 5-2 on aggregate. I am happy that we managed to score, however. We've already scored as many goals in this episode as we did in the entire last episode. I think we're going to need slide tacklers on our team, so even though Bag's training speed for it is terrible, I want to have him start on that anyway, and since he's got decent passing, I'm actually going to make him our defensive midfielder now. With us out of the cup, all that's left to do is for us to skip ahead to February when the league finally starts up again, and for completing half a season we get our first youth player. In theory, we have a youth academy. In practice, however, I picture it as us offering contracts to any kid on the street who shows any inclination of being a footballer and seeing who's crazy enough to actually accept our deal. So obviously the player is terrible, however they do have youth on their side. Also, I was hoping for the player to be named after one of my Twitch viewers, much like potential buyers on the transfer list are, but apparently that's a subscriber only feature because reasons. Instead, how I'm going to handle it is that I'm going to give viewers the rights to rename one youth player each of their choosing after the fact. If you're only watching this series on YouTube, however, rest assured that this is a small detail that is very unlikely to have an actual impact on the gameplay. Let's move on to selling players then. Selling is easy. The game arranges a team to buy the club player off of you and a price, and if you confirm the transfer, it takes place immediately. So we do this to sell some dead weight. To be honest, Gill and Breeze aren't being played either, but I won't sell those two just yet. That's probably enough babbling for now. Let's see if the cup experience actually helps our team get results as we take on MK Dons at home. Chance off the kickoff turn for Willen to shoot, but the shot goes nowhere. A missed tackle from Bag gives MK a chance shortly thereafterwards, but Scrimgour rolls high to catch the ball. On the ensuing attack, I probably should have passed the challenger so he could attempt a long shot, because when I tried to hold the ball I was unable to do so. Wait, we should stop right here to talk about motivation. If a player fails multiple actions in a game, they can turn their frustration into motivation, increasing all of their attributes by 30% and also unlocking the aggressive tackle option to add 20 extra points to their tackle roll. The player also becomes immune to all special skills for the duration, which is 6 actions, 7 if they are an amateur or universal forward. The home team players charge up motivation faster than the away team to simulate the crowd cheering them on and their determination to do well in front of the home fans. Still a scoreless game here, so it's going about as well as we could hope given the fact that it's still difficult for us to score against most defenses, and with the opponent often having to win the ball off of us before they can attack on their turn, we're doing a good job of draining the clock here. MK do get a third shot off, but it doesn't go any better for them than the first 2 shots, and as time is about to expire, we have managed to claim our first competition point in the Amateur League with a scoreless draw. That's not the only good news to come out of this match either. Scrimgour now has enough specialization points to become our first Tier 2 preferred position player, going to become a professional goalkeeper. He gets a couple of 3 levels for his troubles, but more importantly, he'll now receive a 50% bonus to both defense and control while defending the goal mouth, so he should be able to save a lot more shots from here on.
Got him!
Not even with the goalkeeper trait can he save anything. Oh, eat an entire ass. Yeah, we just couldn't catch a break in the Warsaw game. They even score a second goal in similar circumstances to the first. We had 6 shots in this game, but that one you saw and this shot were the only ones that realistically had a chance of scoring, and even then we couldn't do that, so 2-0 loss. Following a tough loss, the only thing we really can do is give ourselves the best chance of making sure the next game goes better. So let's see how we do against Oldham now. Vican nearly beats us all by himself early on with a tackle and a dribble, but his shot does not get past Scrimgour in the end. Sometimes I use the lofted pass just as a means of clearing the ball rather than expecting the pass to actually succeed. But if the random sprays it straight to an opponent's feet, that does leave us open for a counter-attack. Fortunately, same result as the last shot, Scrimgour parries it. Off the kick-off for the second half, it's our turn to try and shoot. Unfortunately, we don't even get the shot to the keeper. That was possibly our best chance of scoring, so we may just have to try and play for the draw again following that. I'm going to slow this next sequence down to explain that defenders can block shots on adjacent tiles, and in this example you've got 3 defenders all stacking their defense on one empty tile that the shot flies across, so we're able to easily block it. The tile needs to be empty for the defender to attempt a block on an adjacent tile. If it's filled, they cannot do it. This match is going to end in a double donut when Vikan tries to dribble into a better position but gets tackled. So another competition point for us. Next on the agenda is Northampton Town, our 4th clash against them this season and a chance to overtake them outright on the league table. They've got their goalkeeper out for 3 matches, so we can just pound goals in all day. Or at least that's how I drew it up in my head. But reality is often disappointing, and when I actually went to shoot, I just get, their defense stacks. This is another situation where I probably should have taken precision shot in hindsight, because had we beaten the blockers it was still almost a certain goal, and having the ball deflect off a blocker doesn't help us nearly as much as if it deflects off the keeper for a corner. Complicating matters further is that Northampton now have a striker with Rainbow Feint. It's only level 1, but nonetheless I do not want to give him a chance to dribble all the way to the goalkeeper, because that can happen. We didn't have to worry about that in the first half, as a wayward Loft forced him to come off his line to pick up the ball, but I do want to change the formation for the second half. Truth be told, it may be time to put Bag on. In fact, that's exactly what I'm going to do, to try and block the pass as well. Special skills cannot be used on a kickoff turn, so we didn't have to worry about the rainbow here, and in any case we made the interception. However, a missed tackle in dangerous territory does give Secker a chance a little later on. Oh, but he's just going to move forward anyway, which means we might actually lose this. Oh, wait. Good play. Yes, it is fortunate that his Rainbow Feint is only level 1 right now, because had it been level 2 or 3, he would have been able to attempt that role twice or 3 times respectively. That makes special skills very potent, and you can expect it to become a major part of our strategy as we move up into the higher leagues. We did not have many good chances to score in this game either, however, so unfortunately this is going to fizzle out into another 0-0 draw, and our chance of leapfrogging Northampton in the league goes begging. Pelter becomes a midfielder, and I feel we're going to need more slide tacklers in the middle, especially someone who can train the skill faster than Bag, so slide tackle it is. More pressing issue, however, contracts. Renewing these 3 contracts is going to take a considerable sum of change. Maybe I shouldn't have renewed Challenger for 2 years, but it's not a good sign for the next transfer window, as a lot more contracts are going to be up for renewal. Maybe I will have to sell a player just to make ends meet. When it comes to on-pitch action, these last 3 league games were much more of the same really, so I'm going to cover the results relatively quickly. But you may be wondering about match length in this game and why I picked 60 actions specifically. You may have noticed that ever since the MK Dons game, our scorelines have been pretty low, and this is only a temporary problem, because right now our team is strong enough to defend against opposing teams, but not really strong enough to score goals consistently ourselves. Even so, I found that on 48 actions, games tend to be a bit too low scoring for my liking, so 60 it is. Anyway, Wimbledon gets a late goal on us here, so we lose this one 1-0. Our next fixture was against Gillingham, who up to this point had won all of their games. Despite this, Challenger managed to put us 1-0 up early on, thanks to a very lucky shooter's roll off the kickoff, only for Gillingham to equalise before the half was over. Still, We gritted and grinded for it in the second half, and when it was all said and done, we became the first and only team to take points away from Gillingham. The result 1-1. This left us with just one more game to finish the season against Rochdale, and this turned into a real snooze fest. By the second half, even Rochdale seemed content with a 0-0 draw. I wanted to show off the crossing and header game in this episode, but I couldn't find a good play to use as an example, so I was going to have to wait until next episode. Also in the next episode, I'm going to explain the glory mechanic and what you can use glory on. Last thing I should mention before we leave this match is that 60 actions results in the simulated games our team is not involved in being relatively high scoring. Side effects include stronger teams winning more often and there being fewer draws in general. All of these factors combined to result in Northampton losing all 12 of their simulated matches, so our 5 draws allowed us to leapfrog them on the league table. Gillingham wins the Amateur League title this season, with Oldham and Walsall perhaps surprisingly beating Wimbledon to promotion. The promoted teams will be replaced by Doncaster, Oxford and Fleetwood Town. Meanwhile, Scunthorpe United won the third league, with Portsmouth and Plymouth also promoting. A dominant performance from Sheffield Wednesday in the second league. One solitary loss in an otherwise perfect season. In the first league, Wolverhampton and Stoke were the pick of the bunch, with Aston Villa barely beating out West Brom to a Premier League promotion. Football Tactics and Glory is predicting that Liverpool will break their Premier League curse in 2020, doing so by winning 17 of their last 19 games. Though the game is also predicting that Burnley's going to finish second because reasons. The Prestige Cup falls the way of Nottingham Forest, beating Hull 2-1 in the final, whilst West Ham makes up for a mediocre Premier League season with a dominant National Cup victory. And in Europe, it was Belgium's year to remember. Anderlecht dominated the final proceedings to take home the second-tier trophy, whilst in the big European Cup, Club Brugge beat Dynamo Kiev 2-1, which makes about as much sense as Burnley finishing second in the Premier League. And that wraps things up for Season 1.